So let's implement this checkout component. I'll actually implement it as a container because it will be a component which manages its own state and also passes this down to other components. So I'll add a new folder in containers and I'll name it checkout. And in there I'll add a checkout.js file, which, well, should hold my checkout component. It'll be a class-based component since state will be involved, and yes, of course, a functional component with use state hook would work too, but as for the rest, I'll stick to class-based components for now. So therefore, I extend the component object, which I have to import together with React from the React package itself to support JSX and correctly set up that class-based component. So let's add this class. Let's then export it as the default of this file. And then let's plan how this checkout component should look like and should behave. What I want to have in the checkout component is a tiny summary of the checkout. So basically what the user is about to buy and the price probably. And then a button to cancel the checkout process and go back to the burger builder. And of course a button to continue. And I guess for the summary, it would be nice to not again show just a list of the ingredients, but maybe show the burger itself, rebuild the burger in this checkout summary. So that's the goal here, show the summary. And then when the user clicks on continue, I then want to load the contact form. So step by step, the goal therefore is to create a checkout summary form which allows me to display a preview of the burger and show the continue or cancel buttons. For that, I'll go into my components folder and add a new folder in there, which I'll name checkout or maybe order to replace all order related components there, like the checkout component. Not checkout, it should be named checkout summary maybe. And in there I'll create a checkout summary.js file and a checkout summary.css file for the styling. Now let's have a look at the checkout summary.js file. There I'll use the functional form to create the checkout summary component. So basically just the checkout summary function here as you know it. We will probably receive some props to render the burger and then return some JSX. So therefore, we definitely need to import React from the React package. And of course, as always, export checkout summary as the default. Now the goal is to display a preview of our burger here and then show the continue or cancel buttons. So what I'll do is in the JSX, which I want to return here, I'll first of all wrap this in a div, which I'll also use for styling purposes to give this component some style. Then I want to have a h1 tag where I say we hope it tastes well, something like that. And thereafter, now I want to have a box in a div basically, where I want to preview my burger component. This div is required to set the boundaries of that burger component. And of course, I'm going to reuse my burger component, which I already have. That's the cool thing, we can reuse it. So I'll set some inline styling here on that wrapping div, which will hold my burger, just to set the width of, let's say, 300 pixels, and then also a height of, let's say, 300 pixels. And let's then also set the margin to auto here. Now inside that div, I want to use my burger component, so I need to import it. I'll import burger from, and now I'll navigate up into the burger folder, and there it's the burger.js file. This is our burger component, which I can now conveniently add like this. The burger, a self-closing tag. I there also need to pass my ingredients. And for that, it'll of course be important to know how I receive these ingredients. I assume that for now I can simply just set the ingredients property of my burger component, which it does expect. If we have a look at the burger component, we have props ingredients in there which we use. So I should also pass this to this ingredient, to this component. Oops, not order summary, checkout summary. Here we are. So we expect ingredients in the burger, so we should pass it. And for now, I'll just expect that in the checkout summary component, I'll also get a ingredients property, which I then just pass on. Below that, I then want to show my buttons, and for that I'll import my own buttons I built. So the button component from the UI folder, and there from the button folder, and then the button.js file, of course. And these buttons, as you probably know, support two different styles. We have the success and the danger class here, which we can pass, and we do pass it with the button type property. So I'll add my buttons below there. I'll add the first button where I'll set the button type to, let's say, danger with a capital D, because that's the CSS class name, where I simply want to say cancel, maybe all caps for styling purposes only. And then I'll duplicate it to also have a success button with a capital S, where I will say continue. So these are the two buttons. You also know that the buttons expose the clicked property, which simply indicates that we clicked on the button. So that is something I'll also need to do. Let's split this over multiple lines, implement clicked here, and then do something upon a click. Now that is something I will add. For now, I just want to finish the styling of this component. So with that, we got our checkout summary JSX code. Now let me also assign a class name here to the wrapping div. And this is a class I want to set up in the checkout summary CSS file. I'll add the checkout summary CSS class here because remember, we're back in our course project. We're using CSS modules here to scope our styles. There I'll set text align to center everything. I'll set the width to 80% maybe and a margin of auto to then center this div or this element. And I'll add a media query where I check if we have a minimum width of 600 pixels, at which point of time I simply want to limit the width so that it's no longer 80%, but here I will limit it to 500 pixels. Now with that, I have to import this CSS code or the classes object to be precise from checkout summary CSS and then assign it here. So here I'll add classes checkout summary, taking advantage of CSS modules here. Now we get the checkout summary component. I now want to use that in my checkout file, in my checkout container to be precise. So there, I'll quickly import the checkout summary component we just created from the components folder. Therefore, there I created that order folder, which holds the checkout summary folder, and there the checkout summary JS file. Now inside my checkout component, where I'll implement a render method, where I then of course return some JSX, there I want to have a div which wraps my entire page, because this will be used as a page with the React router of course. And in there, I'll now add checkout summary like this. Keep in mind, checkout summary expects to get ingredients as a prop, so I should pass ingredients here. And that of course is an interesting question. Where do I get my ingredients from? For now, I'll simply pass a dummy ingredients object, but of course this is something I will replace. I will add state to the checkout component, and there, in the state, I'll add ingredients. And ingredients for now will be salad 1, meat 1, cheese 1, and bacon 1. And this again is just some dummy data which I'll replace. So for now that allows me to pass this state ingredients. We will have to use routing to really pass ingredients later. Now we get the checkout summary and the checkout container here. I now want to use it of course. And for that I will hard code it into my app.js file right below the burger builder. Here I'll import the checkout container from /containers checkout just to see how it looks. We will load it via routing soon. Make sure to save all files and make sure npm start is running, and thereafter if you visit your page, we get an error regarding the onClick listener, but that shouldn't be a problem right now. This is how it looks like our checkout summary component, now we can see that somehow this div with the burger is not really centered. So this is something we should fix. For that, I'll go back into the checkout summary where I use the burger. And one thing I should adjust here is that I should use width 100% to take the full width of the checkout summary component. Now with that, that looks much better on both small devices and bigger devices. Now on small devices here, we got a little bit much height. This is something we can fix by disabling this height to not always setting it to 300 pixels. So let's just get rid of the height property here too for the styling. That was a little bit too much. Now we can definitely use that on mobile devices, and on the desktop this looks good too. Now, of course, there still is some space, but we need some space for bigger burgers, so this is deliberate. But the main thing I now want to work on is that I don't always display this, but instead this should be displayed if I click on Order Now, Continue, then I want to load the checkout summary instead of the burger builder. That's the goal. And for that, of course, we need routing. Now feel free to go ahead and implement this on your own and then compare your solution with mine, which I'll start building in the next lecture.